Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. After high-stakes peace talks in Berlin and a landmark Eastern Flank summit in Helsinki, questions are mounting about Ukraine's security, Russia's intentions and the West's next steps, with Moscow openly seeking a vast buffer zone across Europe. Allies are discussing security guarantees for Ukraine that could resemble NATO's Article 5. Joining us is Yulia Sirko. She's Ukrainian Member of Parliament from the Voice Party, to assess where the negotiations stand, what Ukraine needs to secure lasting peace, and how the Eastern Flank is preparing for what comes next. Yulia, welcome to TVP World. Thanks for taking time.
Hello from Kiev.
Hello. So your initial thoughts on the peace talks in Berlin?
I think it was more or less productive. We just saw the statement, joint statement of all European leaders. It's actually stated that the Ukrainian sovereignty and integrity is a #1 priority. This is very good. So we're not discussing any concessions of territories. Then we see in this statement that Europe and US allies will continue to work on security guarantees to assure the real guarantees, which for Ukrainian means to support 800,000 army, even in a peaceful time, to be ready to protect Ukraine and Eastern Flank from the Russian troops if they will decide to invade again, as well as a weapon. So basically, a Ukrainian army and Western weapon, which is reachable in 24 hours, so to say, or maybe less. Probably the best security guarantee which we can get as Article 5, equal to Article 5, because honestly, in Ukraine, we do not believe that any European or US troops on the ground will be in Ukraine. And we have enough very big and skilled army of 1 million people to protect our country, as well as the Eastern NATO and Eastern European flank. So also money for reconstruction. As Russians damaged a lot of our infrastructure, and I think the assessment now is about $700 billion for reconstruction, as well as other things that we need to discuss in details, because now we see the general framework.
So there are a number of points, a number of issues which you sound quite optimistic about. But I want to go to the first point that you mentioned, that is Ukrainian integrity. Now, clearly, it's one thing saying, well, of course, Ukraine shouldn't lose land. But we do know that Russia has been maximalist in its demands and is completely refusing to pull out of occupied Ukrainian land, including, of course, Crimea. So these are just talks. How is it going to be made to happen?
We saw in the history a lot of examples. Recently, it was Karabakh between Armenia and Azerbaijan, where the occupied land, de facto occupied land, stand for 30 years as occupied, and then was freed in few years or even few days. So we have other examples around the world, and the legal concessions is not possible. I don't think that any kind of legal concessions could be discussed and approved inside Ukrainian nation and politicians. Yeah, but de facto, yes, we have occupied territories as Crimea, as part of Donbass, and probably one of the solutions will be peacekeepers who will stand between the parties, between the conflict sides, and that's maybe will keep this line, so to say, stable. Or it should be some kind of demilitarized zone as between South Korea and North Korea. So it's a discussion. It's going, as I understood from this statement, it's going on discussions, but there is no possibility how it could be legally approved or legally done in Ukraine about the concessions of territories. There is neither political will, no votes in the parliament, nor actually will of Ukrainian nation.
Understood. Now, we've got a short soundbite from President Zelensky speaking at the summit, which I'd like to share with you, and then I'll get your view.
We are working closely with partners to finally end this Russian war against Ukraine, and through Ukraine against the very essence of life in Europe. And that's why now we need the same strong political support that we had at the beginning of this war, from Chechnya to the Balkans, from Moldova to Syria, from countries in Central Africa to Ukraine. Russia chooses conflict over peace. And Russians always say they're somehow not guilty, somehow. And someone else, not Russia, is always expected to make concessions so that Russia might stop spreading bloodshed. And that's always something they claim must be given up so they can stop killing. Now, in Russia's war against us, our people, our country, this logic has reached its largest and the most dangerous scale.
Now, of course, I think there are very few people who would argue with what the president said there. But, in order for this to actually happen, we need Russia at the table. I mean, what's to stop Russia? All of these countries are working very hard to come to some kind of peace agreement. What's to stop Russia saying at the end of it all, well, no, and simply walking away? It's a waste of time unless they're there, isn't it?
Yes, for sure. That's why actually that's why US is in these negotiations and discussions, because they have direct discussions with Putin, who is the only person who can decide on a peace deal, on a peace talks. And I hope they will deliver all messages and possibilities directly, not through the many, so to say, intermediates, but directly to Putin. And I think also Russian economy is not in the best shape. They, for 4 years, they spent $1 trillion. They lost over 1 million people. They are losing 30,000 people only the soldiers per month. And also they occupied less than 1% of Ukrainian land starting from 2022. So this is 1 trillion, 1 million of lives, and they reached less than 1% of the burnt, basically, territory. So I think for them it's a very stupid and dead-end war. So I think they understand it as well. So they just try to save their faces and somehow end this war. So I think probably, because I saw probably around 36 or 40 rounds of negotiations between Russia, Ukraine, Europeans, Americans. And honestly, I think this is the real chance to reach a deal, peace deal, and stop the war, because it's going, so to say, in more a constructing way than it was before. So I think for Russia to take this war for another 12 or 18 months will cost another 1 trillion, and they will have social and financial problems, because you can see that they are not in the best financial situation. Consider that the oil Brent dropped again, is less than $60 per barrel. So it's very low for them.
Indeed. Now, just in the last minute or so that we have left, Julia, I'd like to ask about the security guarantees. You said earlier that anything less than NATO Article 5 simply isn't going to do the job. Tell us more about that.
Look, nobody in this world tried Article 5 of the NATO, and nobody felt it. And on the practical issues, we Ukrainians for 4 years understand that we can fight efficiently with Russia army, and if we have army between 8 to 800,000 to 1 million, and we have enough production of weapon inside the country and modern Western technologies and weapon on our borders, so we can take it easily when we need it to protect the country and eastern flank in 24 hours. And we have enough money to pay for these very costly weapon and army, then it's probably the best security guarantee we can get at this point of time, because we don't see that any European army capable to fight with Russians. But Europe definitely has enough industrial capacity to produce enough modern weapon, and we have modern technology. So
Understood.
These
Yulia
this
Sirko,
will give us
we're going to
European
going to have to end it there, but thank you so much for your analysis. Unfortunately, the clock has beaten us. Have a good evening and stay safe.
Okay. You too.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. And that brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, though. Lots more coming up. Goodbye.